I've got the Salt Lake Bees logo tattooed on my leg.
You do?
I do. I'm a big Utah sports fan.
Are you going to show us?
Turn the cameras off, everybody. Let's wrap this up, right?
His jeans are too tight, Kelsey. He can't pull them up.
Jen, we're back on the podcast. Can you believe it?
I'm so excited about this. Like, this is my happy place.
Same. We walked in. I felt like we were on Monsters, Inc. walking through the gateway to go scare some kids in the doors. And it felt like home walking back through these doors of this beautiful room that Mountain America has provided to record our podcast. So big shout out to Mountain America and Nathan Anderson. Thank you guys so much for supporting the Chamber and everything we do.
Thank you, Mountain America. This is so exciting. And I'm so glad to be back. So much has changed in the Chamber over a year. I mean, we've grown so much. So we've got a lot of good stuff to talk about. And I feel like we're kicking it off in like perfect style today.
Perfect style. Today's a big day.
It's a
for
big
a lot
day.
Of things. So Jay won his award for CEO of the Year from Utah Business Magazine.
Cheers,
which was awesome.
Jay.
Congrats.
Amazing.
And let's see, since we've been recording, South Jordan City has joined up as a member.
Yep.
Or
Cottonwood
shortly
Heights.
thereafter. And
Yep.
Cottonwood Heights is big.
Yeah.
So
welcome.
yeah, big growth all over the city.
It's exciting. Yeah. Absolutely.
So as a representative of the Small Business Committee, how was the last year for you guys?
Wow. Small Business Committee has gone through lots of iteration and exploration. I think the thing I'm most proud of, and we're going to get to talk about this a little bit in another episode, but we've introduced a Small Business Award and the Titan Awards, and we've recognized a couple of really incredible small businesses that are not only doing great things in their businesses, but they're contributing to our community here at the Chamber and just more broadly in just really lovely and amazing ways. So I'm super excited to talk about that. But lots of good stuff going on in the Small Business Committee. Right.
I think with the businesses that are represented within the Chamber, we've got Draper, Riverton, Sandy, South Jordan, and Cottonwood Heights now. There's a lot of growth. It's cool to see businesses spark ideas, franchises opening up. Just this valley is growing with new ideas, and I love being a part of that and talking with all of the innovators that are bringing those new ideas to life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and this goes into our guest today, but this podcast, the idea that we had around this podcast a few years ago when we started it was giving folks a way to not only connect with the Chamber, but to hear the stories and from the influencers of small business owners and the people who are helping small businesses succeed here in the state. So we are here with the lovely and talented Kelsey Berg today from the Miller Group. Thank you for joining us, Kelsey, and being our first guest back after taking a little bit of a break.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
So you bring a lot of the influencer lifestyle to the Miller Group, and a lot of the changes. Right, you got a pretty extensive background in policy and moving the needle forward. So help us understand. You've been with the Miller Group for about a year now. Is that correct?
Almost, yeah.
Okay, so what was that transition like going from politics into this new sector?
Yeah, and maybe tell us about your background for people who don't know you.
Sure. So up until about 9 months ago, I spent a decade in politics in federal policy. So I graduated from BYU in political science and then went to DC and worked for, at the time, Congressman Jason Chaffetz. Did his a bunch of stuff in DC and then came back, did a lot of energy, natural resource issues, ran his campaign in 2016. And then end up joining Mitt Romney's campaign in 2018. Did that and then spent about 5 years being his deputy chief of staff and going back and forth between DC and Utah about every 4 to 10 days. And so that was a busy couple years, but it was great. But yeah, it's been a big change going from particularly federal politics and policy to the private sector. And obviously an incredible company and family at the Larry H. Miller Company and the family does amazing things for the state of Utah. And so, but it's been a little bit of a change to have, tongue in cheek that, numbers actually mean something, right? Like, you can't just go print more money. And we always used to joke when we were doing a budget or the infrastructure bill or something that everything was always in round numbers because it was it's, 50 million here.
Just add a little more here or there.
Million there. So anyway, and it's interesting now because a lot of things that Senator Romney talked about, obviously with a business background, now I'm actually seeing that in the real world. right? Of like things that he would
Amazing.
talk about. And so it's been fun to talk to him and say like, hey, I learned what EBITDA meant, right? And like
You live in
like,
spreadsheets
actually-
now, right?
exactly, right? Like IRR and like all these like business terms that, you know, you think you should know in government and have that drive things, but unfortunately it doesn't. So anyway, but no,
Very
it's
neat.
great to be back home full time and to do some big things.
So okay, so I've always wondered about the lifestyle and the work that you've done in government, or the folks that are in policy. So now that you've left that world, like what was your favorite part about being part of just all of that, right? It's such a busy, challenging space, right, to be in. But what do you miss it at all?
I do miss it. I miss the people I worked with. That was fun. You have a small team and you're kind of all battling the same battles every day, right? And so you have a lot of camaraderie with folks, and there's not a lot that the people understand about it. Your daily life is people's hobby, right? Most people's hobby are to talk politics. And so, but to actually be in the trenches and people watching the news and you're like, that's not really how it went. And that's not really, you kind of know the difference. It's a mix because and traveling the state and working for the people of Utah, which is what I loved, you get to help people, especially with like casework, like getting a passport, or Social Security issues, or IRS issues, or veterans issues, right? Those are like the ones where you actually make a difference. Rarely do you pass big legislation that impacts people's lives, right? And that's, from a philosophical level, that's not really the role of the federal government. It should be rare, and it should, not have as much impact on people's lives.
You heard it here first.
But being able to do the small things and impact people's lives, or even whether it's, a lot of my background is more rural policy, and so working with ranchers and farmers on permits for BLM or Forest Service, or changing someone's bit, like for example those that are in Springdale, right, with Zion National Park, and going and saying, okay, Zion's is trying to put in this implement this policy that'll impact the tourism economy in St. George and in Rockville and in Springdale. And so being able to be that advocate against the federal agencies is fun, and push for good policies. So I do miss kind of those small wins and those victories. But as much as you see the good part of humanity, you also see the bad part.
I bet.
The people that, the only ones you hear from typically are the ones that are upset and angry, and you think the public should not have any role in policy, because the only ones you hear from are the idiots. And so it's like, so anyway, so it's a mix of that, but you have to sometimes try really hard to not lose your faith in humanity, because you do see the worst of people.
Yeah. So. Was a big hit your Delta Sky Miles as well?
Oh man, moving back, that's because normally I'd fly back every Thursday night, and then I'd fly back to DC on Sunday mornings to get ready for the next week.
That's great mileage.
Yeah, you kind of have to think so I'd have like Diamond, but I don't actually, with the changes, I don't even know if I would get Diamond, because it's not like miles based, it's all like money based. So
right.
On the getting government tickets, or you get a little bit of a discount on those, and so I don't even know if I would have hit Diamond, but anyway.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And another big thing as well is you've been attended the legislative sessions. Give us, you were in the rooms, right? You were hearing it. What's going on right now in the state of Utah?
So that's the fabulous thing about Utah, and one of the things I love the most is that we do have just a 45-day session, right? So if you're not as familiar with it, it starts the day after Martin Luther King Day, and usually around the middle of January, and then goes 45 days, including weekends, even though they don't work weekends. So it's actually only about 33-ish working days. And our legislature is what's called a citizen legislature, which some people complain because they feel like people's day jobs provide conflicts of interest, which in some cases I understand that, but also what better people would you want? Like, who would you rather have doing insurance policy than an insurance agent who understands what works and what doesn't? Yeah. So there's pluses and minuses. And having a deadline means that stuff gets done, because either it's good policy and it passes, or it's not good policy and it dies, right? And so it seems like obviously on the federal level, some deadlines, I mean, we have deadlines and then we blow through them on the federal level, but more deadlines would make it so that you either have to kind of say, it's good enough and let's move forward and then fix it next year. Or things that are bad ideas just die, and there's hopefully less people messing in your life than normal. But so it's great, and you can go and you can truly see people, right? Your legislators, you can go up there and they're interacting all the time, and it's a very, very citizen friendly experience. The Capitol is open to anyone. You got kids up there all year long or all session long that are learning the process and looking in the gallery and watching what's going on. You got, buses all over and, learning the best things about Utah. And we have a really good legislature that for the most part cares about the state of Utah. They're all trying to be better. And if you think about it, they take time from their daily lives to go do this. And so they're not doing it to cause problems or to do anything else. It's because they truly want to try and make the state better and continue on the upward trajectory that we've got for business, which, we're the number one state for business number of times. And I think it's a mix of government knowing when to engage and then also when not to engage and to stay out and let the free market do its thing. And there's sometimes where you see housing is a big issue in the state. And so the state's trying to find the right way to incentivize the outcomes we're looking for. So there's a lot of things. I think housing is probably the big one. Water was a big one, which there's only so much you can do with that. And I think I saw yesterday that the Great Salt Lake is the healthiest it's been in like 5 years, which shows that, along with some help from up above, which we can't really control, that we're getting some moisture and hopefully that's working. But people are being more, consuming more water and being smart on that. So those are some really good, really exciting things. But I think those are probably the two big things statewide that are being worked on.
Yeah, so that sounds like your happy place. 100%. That sounds like your happy place.
Exactly. Well, it's fun. It's just they're good people, and you see, again, the best of, the American experiment, and that's where states should be, right? They're cliches. They're the laboratories of democracy, and states should be different, and what one state does is different than another, and that's the great part about living in a, united country of 50 different states, is you can go live what works best for you. And so I love that. I love that the legislature is so open during the session too for people to come and engage. All of my kids have been through. I've been there on certain days, and it's just it draws that community, which I think Utah is so good at, and I think the chamber is so good at. Right? It's all about creating community, and when you do it well, we can all sort of come with different ideas, different backgrounds, right? And you come out better because you're willing to sort of go into those tense dialogues sometimes, right? And that's what the legislative session feels like when I watch it as a citizen. Well, I think it shows that it works. Yeah. Right? Like too often we see DC on TV. And in most cases they get along, but when the cameras turn on, the disagreement goes. But I think in Utah you see, even if you disagree with someone, which again, we're not going to agree on policy all the time, but people are open having the dialogue and saying, can we get to the right spot? Yeah. Right? And I think if you look over the last decade on some of the things that we get hit on from a business perspective, we've made a lot of improvements on that, right? Two of the big things I was thinking about are our alcohol policy, especially from folks coming in from outside of Utah, and air quality. And we've made a lot of progress. And sometimes someone will move here and be like, oh, this is all crazy. It's like, well, you have no idea where we've been, right? And let me tell you where we started. I'm not advocating for either of those, but especially on air quality. Like, we're cleaner now than we have been along the Wasatch Front. And so the legislature does make changes, and sometimes things take time, and you got to try it out and see how it works. But a thing that I like is anyone will have conversations. There's very little hardcore conflict in the state legislature because they all know each other. They all get along. And you can talk about that. And I think if you go up there, especially in the evenings when it's quieter, you just feel that sense of awe and wonder, especially in a building that our forefathers created when they had like nothing. And you look at the old pictures, and it just gives you that sense of hopefully trying to be better, which obviously, the chamber does extremely well, right? And I think that's the slogan this year is better now, is to go out and make communities better. How do you make our state better? How do you make our cities better? Our neighbors, our communities. That's the place that we should go do. And hopefully everyone leaves there wanting to go do that in their own little circles. I love that.
So now in your role with the Miller Group, we get to discuss communities because you guys are all about creating new, good, business booming communities, correct? Yeah,
that's kind of where we've transitioned.
Yeah.
Right? So everyone knew the Larry H. Miller Company as the jazz and car dealerships. Now we don't own either of those anymore. And then the last few years have transitioned a lot more into real estate and trying to help small businesses. So
Daybreak is on everybody's mind. And what's going to be happening out there?
Some exciting stuff.
I want to talk about baseball, but I'm sure we're going to get there.
Well, and I know a big part of that, right, is moving the bees down to a new downtown in Daybreak. And, being a Riverton resident, I so look forward to that because I'm a big baseball fan. I've got the Salt Lake Bees logo tattooed on my leg.
You do?
I do. I'm a big Utah sports fan.
Are you going to show us?
Turn the cameras off, everybody. Let's wrap this up, right?
His jeans are too tight, Kelsey. He can't pull them up.
Well, that's one thing I learned from Kelsey is don't wear tight jeans around Kelsey because she'll make fun of you all day long if you do.
I was gonna say, I do think I've seen him on your like workout videos though, because you do wear shorts.
That's right,
I think I've seen him. You have an RSL tattoo.
I have an RSL tattoo as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Big Utah fan.
Soccer's the best, but baseball's a pretty close second. So let's talk
it is America's
baseball.
pastime.
Yeah. I grew up playing baseball in high school and out at Kearns and so having a team like I don't necessarily like coming downtown all that much because it's downtown and it's crazy and I drive a big truck and where am I going to park? So I just stay away from it. This seems different. This feels better. It feels like it's going to be closer. I think the community of what Daybreak already is and what this is going to be, like I want to bring my family there. I want to take my kids there. I can take them out to the ball game and feel like I'm in a good atmosphere. So give us some little snippets about what this is going to look like and what the plan's going to be.
Yeah. So we're really excited about being in South Jordan. So a couple years ago is when we bought Daybreak, the master plan community. And so we do a lot on the real estate side and the purchase of destination homes as well. So you have the residential side of that. And then as you see the valley grow and anyone who lives on the west side knows that it takes quite a long time to get from the west side to downtown. And so we're trying to kind of help along with, the Point of Mountains trying to do the same thing of urban centers and urban cores and kind of those experiences without having to go downtown all the time. And so with our partnership with South Jordan, we have Downtown Daybreak, which we're excited to have. Yeah, it'll be the new Stadium of the Bees, which we're excited to have a new amenity and a new ballpark out there. And as part of that, have restaurants and kind of a mixed use developments are kind of the way that sports are going a lot more these days. And we talk a lot about the Battery in Atlanta, at Truist Field, which is where the Braves play. And that's kind of one of our examples and that we're trying to copy for this area, to where we'll have a new family entertainment center from Megaplex. Obviously, Larry Miller Company owns Megaplex as well, which we'll do the first one, which will have arcades and bowling and hopefully be more of a year-round. We want a 365 days, right? But you leave out snowy days and some of those, right? And, I mean, even Sundays, though, right? Like, you can bring those in, but try and bring we want, cool restaurants out there and have it activated all the time. That's when you see some of the other issues we're facing in places like Smith's Ballpark or some of those, which is a gorgeous ballpark and has, a bunch of history. Yeah. It's trying to make those to not be just, 1 or 2 nights a week venues, that it is that activation all the time, and it is a place for the community to engage and use some of the same principles that we use in a master plan community like Daybreak, to have people be able to bike and walk and have it be a more accessible place, especially for those within South Jordan and in that part of the valley, to not have to go downtown every time you want to watch a movie or go to an event or something.
That's so exciting.
Like that. So
yeah, if I'm a local business, right, and thinking about I own a restaurant or a shop of some kind, like how do I get engaged, right, with what's happening so that I know, so I can investigate that opportunity, right, to be part of this?
Well, part of it's to join the chamber, right? I mean,
give her a raise. Let's do that.
No, but we appreciate our partnership with the chamber, and the chamber is key to that. That'll be a big component, is to make sure that part works well. And you see a lot of those kind of already going on. You've got, Mount View Village and some of those areas in this part, the southern part of the valley, that they're really starting to come up, and you see the excitement of having great restaurants and amenities and retail and being able to allow, so you have some of the bigger retailers that are, or, restaurants that are the anchors, and then it gives those opportunities for more of the small businesses to come in and to kind of draft off some of those. And so if you want to be a tenant of Downtown Daybreak, so we've got I don't actually remember how long it is, but it goes from like Lakeview all the way down to the library in Daybreak in South Jordan. Come talk to us. We're looking for tenants all the time to come in, and we want to highlight local amenities. We're looking to bring in some that you'll want to drive to South Jordan to go to. Everyone loves a Chick-fil-A, but you're going to go to what everyone's closest, right? But if there's some amazing amenities that'll, have people to drive out there and say, hey, come, be either a tenant at the ballpark. We love hosting local ones there. And that's actually one thing, if you listen to Steve Starks, the CEO of Larry H. Miller, when they redid the Delta Center about 5 years ago, they did a $125 million renovation, like stripped it all down to the nuts and bolts and rebuilt one of the best arenas in basketball. But if you talk to them, when they went to the broker that they were trying to get the concessions for, they said, we want to focus on local, right? We don't want any of the big national chains. We want our local folks to be there. And their food and beverage sales have increased dramatically.
Yeah.
Because people want a J-Dog, right? They
I
want,
love that.
you know, Mo Betta's or whatever the local ones are. And
Yeah.
so when they focused on having local tenants, their food and beverage sales increased.
Yeah.
Side note too, we sell ice cream 8 times more than any other arena in the National Basketball League.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Now,
So
our beer sales are not as great.
welcome
But
to
on ice
Utah, right?
cream.
Yeah.
I have an idea,
It's-
Dave.
Well, it's funny, right? So I've represented a few clients that have some of their franchises in the stadium at the Delta Center, and it's crazy, right? When you're looking at P&Ls and balance sheets, what the stadium sales are compared to somewhere that's got a brick and mortar, and you're thinking, okay, a couple nights a week, but you go to a game, you want to have a snack. I feel like they've handpicked some of the best options to be in there for the guests. That now it's not like, hey, let's go to a game. It's like, hey, now I'm gonna go get spilled milk, or now I'm gonna go get Mo Betta's.
It's a
And now-
destination.
now
Yeah.
you can do that when you watch a
Mhm.
game. So you're not just getting your popcorn and nachos and Coke. Like, you have all these different options.
It's like, what better hot dog to have than a J-Dog,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
It's like, yeah, if I'm going to go to a ballpark and have a J-Dog or a hot dog, I want the best hot dog.
100%.
And that's a
Exactly.
J-Dog, right? And
Yes.
so that's what we're really trying to look at. The same thing with the ballpark itself is we want to have a unique experience. We want to be able to have everyone have a unique experience, even at, for lack of a better phrase, kind of suburban prices. So we're trying really hard to try and find ways that folks can have season tickets and split with other families. How do you have good group environments to be able to go to a game? How do you have
Right.
good family-friendly environments? How does it
Definitely.
really truly feel like kind of a community event when you go to the new ballpark for the Bees? And how does that work with the whole area, right? How do we keep it so that, maybe the concourses itself aren't open, but that you can walk around the ballpark on non-game days and
Right.
have it truly be an integrated part and not put fences up and have it only open when you've got a ball game.
Right.
That's
And so
lovely.
building an area to
Yeah.
have, more, reception space for, maybe South Jordan can host an event there. We can have, chamber events there. You can actually have winter receptions or events or, business luncheons and awards and things like that. So truly trying to actually make it a part of the community.
I think that's a big part of it that comes from the Miller Group and how tied into Utah they've been, is that it's not just a big development company that's coming in and saying, let's put high density housing in and let's give them some amenities and let's see what the bottom dollar is. Like, this is community based, and it really feels that way from the outside in.
Yeah, totally. I'm wondering, like, I have some colleagues who live in Daybreak, so we talk about this, and there's both a lot of excitement, and the one thing that I think people talk about most that live in that side of the valley is traffic, right, and infrastructure. So how should people be thinking about that impact as you guys sort of have built out this master plan, and it draws a lot more people to the area?
Yeah, so we work really hard, work really closely with UDOT, UTA, Wasatch Front Regional Council, the city of South Jordan Mountain View Corridor is a key component, right? And to have that be, which I think is a key component for everyone, to have that be a really good transportation corridor for the west side of the valley. This last session, we worked closely with UDOT and UTA to make sure that we have a track stop right there at the ballpark that will open opening day, and hopefully that'll bring in and encouraging and working with the chamber and all the communities on the southwest quadrant too, to try and have tracks connect in over to the point of the mountain in some of those areas, to make it so that there's options for people that make sense.
Yeah.
When it comes to transit, and pull all those things in, and then just use really good transportation planning metrics. And there are people way smarter than me that are planning that out and seeing that it works. But that's what we're
Love
hoping, is to try and
Yeah.
learn from what
Yeah.
other folks have done and implement those.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful community. I was actually just there for a soccer game for my son on Monday, and I can't remember the name of this park, Kelsey, but there is a gigantic park that it's brand new. The team that we were playing lives in Harriman, and they were telling us about it, but there's like a giant disc golf, if you've ever heard of
yeah,
disc golf community. There's like just a beautiful, it's just beautiful golf. There was a great playground, right? And like probably 18 soccer fields worth of space to play on. So we were like, I am not from that area. And so we're always like, we need space to play games. So it's always competitive, right? To who's got the field booked. So anyway, it's lovely to see so much investment going into that part of the the community. And my husband and I, we drive out there and we're like, oh, maybe we should be thinking a little harder about this.
Some folks if you're
interested. So anyway.
Yeah. So the stadium's coming in, the bees are moving in. What's the timeline on when the stadium will be kicked off and when we can expect to get some popcorn and good food out and watch a game out there?
Yeah. So we are planning on opening day 2025.
All right.
Is when we plan on having the bees out in South Jordan.
That's like in a second. That'll fly by.
Yeah. It's coming.
You got a lot to do,
as our construction teams are well aware.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're excited about the possibilities, and it'll be an amazing ballpark. And one of the cool little things is it'll be a very intimate environment. There's some seats right behind home plate that you'll be, if they haven't changed it in the last few hours, which happens quite often still, but the seats behind home plate will be closer to the batter than the pitcher is, and so yeah, it'll be a cool environment, and we hope that the community comes out and we can have a lot of fun nights.
Yeah. So on that, right, as we kind of wrap this up, I just want to throw this out there for you is obviously a lot of buzz around Utah's, with MLB and the potential of what would happen with that and all the work that Big League Utah is doing with that. How tied in is Big League Utah with the Bees Stadium and what's happening out there with the Miller Group, as well as the potential for the MLB to come out here?
Yeah. They're obviously tied in the sense that we want both to be successful. And hopefully the Bees are here now and we're fully invested in the Bees and privately funding that stadium. And we appreciate, again, the partnership with South Jordan and some of the amazing things that are going out there. And we hope that that'll be, again, like I said, a year-round amenity, and it won't be just used for bees, and we can bring some really cool opportunities out to that part, whether it's bigger concerts or bigger events or what have you on some fun stuff out there. And so we are learning a lot as we're rebuilding that and getting more into baseball, which will help as we move into the Major League Baseball arena. And this last session, we just passed some legislation that kind of helps us move things along for the Power District, which is up by the State Fair Park, which is on the west side of Salt Lake City, a very sometimes ignored part of the state. And if anyone's been to the State Fair recently, it is not a safe area either. And you have these incredible amenities, state amenities of the State Fair Park and the Jordan River that are vastly underutilized. The State Fair Park has done amazing work over the last 8 years to become solvent, and hopefully this can help them. The communities in that area feel overrun by the unsafeness of the Jordan River and the crime that comes with that. And it's not just homeless issues. There's legitimate crime and massive issues. And I would never suggest anyone walks alone in that area day or night from what we hear. But no, it'll be really cool to help clean that up and have a partnership there and elevate those. And that development will happen regardless of baseball. But in the next few years, the commissioner of baseball has said that he's going to retire in 2029 and would like to complete expansion before then. And the thought is that MLB will expand 2 teams, one in the East and one in the West. And Nashville and Charlotte are kind of the front runners in the East. And we feel pretty confident that we're the front runner in the West. And but we don't want to get ahead of anyone. And we're excited to just show up. But no, we love that everything Utah has to offer. And all we do is to enrich lives and try and build communities. And we're excited to be a partner with the South Valley and see what comes in South Jordan.
Yeah, well, we're so grateful to have you on. Thank you for coming on and sharing all these nuggets with us, because it's what I want to hear. I know, Jen, right, with our families and our kids in sports and all that, like, it means a lot to know what's going on and having a familiar face to be able to do that. So thanks for coming on and helping us out with that.
Yeah, well, and Dave, they're starting to host some rodeos in ballparks too. So you should start.
Again, I'm hitting 40. I'll definitely go and watch and get my kids into mutton busting, but
not as good as you once was, but you're as good once as you ever was, right?
You got it. Thank you for that. You just brightened up my day.
You're welcome. You can start planning that for sure.
2025. You got some time to train.
We'll see.
We'll
see what I do.
And you heard Kelsey say, be part of the chamber, because that's how you're going to connect into what's happening and all the great things that the Miller Group is doing for the community. So thank you. But if you're not signed up, be signed up. Get on the program here.
Yeah, check us out at southvalleychamber.com. And you can find us on the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So with that, Kelsey, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
You're
Thanks,
amazing.
guys.
Thanks.